I would actually like to start out by hearing something from Behzad, because tomorrow Network will be premiering his concerto for English horn and 9 strings. So that's another reason for you to come to the concert tomorrow. We're very excited about that. And just I'm wondering if there is anything in your music, in your writing today, that you can attribute to having learned from Vincent Persichetti or being influenced by him, any aspect?
Well, unfortunately, I studied with him briefly toward the end of his life. Most people might remember his music and his words, but for me, the most profound influence was the silence. In the first lesson, I was used to having the teacher as a kind of advancing the dynamic in the lesson. So I just sat back and relaxed, waited for him to lead the discussion, and nothing happened. And I waited. That 30 seconds still is with me. It's the most profound 30 seconds of silence in my life. Every day I think about it, that how he waited for me to lead, and I was waiting for him to lead, and there was a 30 seconds of silence. And finally, I couldn't resist. I started to talk. And he was very expressing his ideas in a short, brief sentences. I remember I usually brought completed works. I was writing my song cycle based on Persian poetry. And he looked at it, didn't say anything. He looked at it for 15, 20 minutes. And he said, you know, we expect songs to have simple piano parts, but this is like Charles Ives. It's very heavy. Didn't ask me to change a note. And took me almost 20 years to come back to those songs to revise it for the publication. I felt it needed a very heavy piano part because it's about poverty. The poetry was asking, the man was asking that I was born in poverty that was not mine. I was born to a pleasure that was not mine. I was born to a pain that was not mine. So I felt the music really have to reflect that pain and anguish. But he did not say, he did not ask me to change, but what his remark stated me, finally I reduced that piano part 50% in time for the publication. The third thing I'd like to share is not musical, but is mentorship. In one of the lessons, there was a knock at the door, and he said, "Come in." So the door was opened. His former student, whom I did not know, he came in and said, "Vincent, could I speak to you in private for a moment?" So Vincent left. 2 minutes later, came back, and we continued our lessons. After the lesson, I was in the hallway. I met that former student. So I introduced myself. We started to talk. I said, "What brought you to school?" He said, "I was short on money. I came to Vincent to borrow $100. And he had that kind of mentorship. It's not written out, but many of his students relied on him as like a second father.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I think for a lot of students, he really was a second father. Fathers who couldn't provide for them musically, I think compositions really went for him. And then, like you said, people keep going back to see him for years. I mean, even myself, I mean, after I moved out of New York and stopped studying with him, I would go to see him at Presser. If I had a piece that I was worried about, I would go and see him about it. And he was always gracious to see me either at his home or at the office at Presser. So he's always very generous that way.
I studied with Louis Calabro as a freshman in college, and he talked about Vincent as a second father as well as a teacher. And Lou bragged to me that for L&M, or whatever the course was called, where all the performers had to write pieces, and that Lou was short on money. He came from a poor family, and he was trying to support himself as a percussionist in New York. But he actually was writing the L&M exercises for lots of the performers there. And
Tell people what L&M.
Literature and materials, is that?
Yeah.
I don't know what it was called.
Theory, right?
Yeah.
Music theory.
So he was writing these little compositions for his friends who were the performers for pay. And Lou told me this because I was doing that when I studied with Lou, and it caught me. So, or he questioned me, but he said, you know, I, meaning himself, Lou, was really smart, and I tricked the great Vincent because I made sure that everybody had a different handwriting, they had different weaknesses in their writing, so Vincent could never catch me. So one day I mentioned to Vincent in the office that I had studied with Lou, and he said, you know, Lou was a great guy. I helped him because he thought I never knew that he was writing. But he needed the money, so I thought.